Attention occupants of Ivanov Crater. This is Director Verhoeven. Ivanov has long been an off-network backwater on the edge of the Martian frontier. Your Venusville mining cooperative was unprofitable, untenable, and would have collapsed if not for the generous intervention of Rodge Corp. We've brought stability and prosperity to this crater. We built the Maglev and Sari Station and a cutting-edge research facility. When TCM deposits were discovered, did we not share in the wealth by expanding mandatory overtime to all? How, my dear Venusians, have you returned that generosity? You've spread falsehoods about our brave security forces, fabricated stories about our fine medical personnel, spun wild tales about sickness, brutality, alien technology, and cover-ups. Rodge Corp has never concerned itself with rumors, but the outright theft, destruction, and occupation of corporate property will not be tolerated. You have 24 hours to turn over the terrorist known as Advocate, the ringleader of your so-called resistance. If this demand is not met, we have been authorized by the Planetary Authority to use maximum full...
This is Advocate. All private connections have been severed, so we are using the public line. My time is short. The next maglev to arrive will be packed with mercenaries and heavy-duty military hardware. Rodge Corp has declared war, and now is our time to strike. We will clear the mines, liberate Venusville, secure Ansari Station, and gut their research facilities. We are calling on allies, the rebels of Cydonia, Red Mars, and others. If you can hear this, we need your help. Now is the time to get your ass to Mars!
Hey everybody, welcome back to PFP, a introductory podcast for the new player on Infinity. We focus on the newer player just to kind of help people get in and get involved in the game. I'm your host, Ryan.
I'm your host, Rob.
Hey Rob, guess what?
What's that, Ryan?
Randy is not with us today. He said he would be here, but he's not here.
He's got that schooling still.
Yep, but guess what?
What's that?
I found a replacement for tonight.
What? A pinch hitter in the 9th inning?
Yep, I had to call an audible. So,
right.
Everybody, if you were unaware, our next guest of massive celebrity podcasting fame, massive
huge fame.
fame. I mean, like, this is the biggest celebrity we've had on our podcast to date. Everybody, I would like to introduce you to Joe Rogers, also known as Rodge. Say hello to the folks, Rodge.
Hello, guys. I'm sure they've heard me before. It's only my fifth time on here.
But
Yes.
not in the new season.
That's true. You got me there.
Yeah, and Rob and I have talked about you and your stuff before on the cast.
Talk about your junk.
Before on the cast. So people should be, even the second season group should be out there and aware. So we are going to talk a little bit about our normal stuff, and then we're going to go into a special announcement, which is why we have Rodge on here. For those of you want to do a little housekeeping elements, I lost internet, so I'm on my phone, so my sound quality is not the best, and I'm sorry about that.
And my internet is alive and well, even though it is being ran by 2 skunks and a raccoon because I live out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Internet's always good here, boys.
Yeah, it's because you live in the high, status quo of the world.
I guess.
All right, so Rob, have you been doing anything hobby-wise? What's been up to?
I am currently on day 336 of my hobby streak, and I have been hobbying as much as I possibly can, especially with the holiday season, and the company that we work for has a no carryover of PTO policy. So the last 2 weeks of 2018, I was a hobbying fool and got Roger Van Zant done, got Airborne Rangers done. I got a whole ton of stuff done. It was great. What about you, man?
I was not as productive. I had a little bit of a slack of motivation. I did, however, get my first Rodoc done for my test model of how I want them to look, and I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
great.
that. Yeah, I think that thing is a sexy mofo.
Looks good. Yeah, the green and the blends. The other stuff looked fine, but looks like you took taking it up a notch. I don't know. Looks great.
Yeah, thanks. I threw it out there on Twitter, which I don't typically do a lot of tweeting, and it generated some traffic from names I'd never heard of before. So I was a little impressed myself with that. I was like, oh, hey. So, and then I also finished my entry for the MayaCast Q4, which was they're doing Xenotech, but I did the CSU with the briefcase submachine gun chick just because I really like that model.
It's a sweet looking model, and I love how you did that line of fire on the base, that purple fade. Sweet.
Yeah, I was just trying something new, just trying to mix it up a little bit. I don't like I like the mechanic and what the line of arcs do, but sometimes it can really distract from the model. So I was just trying to play with that.
Yeah. Raj, what about you? What's on your hobby desk?
Oh, I've been pretty busy. Do I got to catch us up from the last time I was on 6 or 9 months ago? So yeah, I kind of paint in batches or modes. So over the last fall here, I've been painting up my combined army, actually Onyx Contacts Force specifically. So over the course of several months, I managed to paint the first 10, I guess, with the extra little bots and stuff. 13 guys for the first limited insertion list that I came up with. And then in mid-December here, I switched completely to terrain mode, which we can discuss the details of that a little later. So I've been knee deep in pink foam over here and spray paints and various accoutrements there.
So, for those of you who don't listen to Rodge's podcast, he has a podcast of his own, Point Hammered, and he talked about that on that podcast about you getting up at like 4 or 5 a.m. Are you still doing that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So with I've got a little 2.5 year old guy here, and I just found normally I am a night owl, so this is pretty unusual that I've been able to do this, but normally, he goes to bed about 8:30, and then I'd have some time to work on hobby stuff. But I found that I just really was procrastinating, not getting stuff, just reading for a bunch of hours. Reading is fine, but I want to work on models. I got stuff I want to do, watching Netflix and stuff like that. So I sort of switched to the morning schedule before he gets up. And I have to say, when you get up, you're not gonna really piss that time away. Playing video games or something like that. So it's easier to stay focused. And I probably, if I stayed up late, I'd probably have maybe like 3 hours versus maybe 2 hours in the morning. But it's a solid 2 hours of time, and just a little bit every day gets the stuff done.
So do you just get up and like roll out of bed and go in and start hobbying, or do you take a shower, eat your breakfast, get ready for your day, then hobby, and then leave for work? How do you kind of start your morning?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm kind of not a great waker upper. I'm not sure how to put that. So, but I found actually I don't like having the cell phone near the bed, but I have been using it as my alarm, and then I'll actually, because I'm gonna kind of lay there anyway, so I'll just get up, I'll read on it, do a little browsing for 5 or 10 minutes, and then maybe read a book for another 5 or 10 minutes until I finally gotten the strength and stamina needed to start the day. And then I make some coffee, and I do my hobby stuff, and then maybe like around 7:15 or something, then I got to switch to work mode and getting dressed, making breakfast, everything like that.
Huh. Because I've also switched over to a morning routine, and I literally roll out 4:30, grab a cup of coffee, and hit the hobby desk until about 5:15, 5:20.
But Rob, you always got up early, so it's not like
that is true. That is true. I am what you would call the early bird.
Yeah. it's really interesting. I've always been like a night owl, but I just like getting stuff done. I'm not sure. It's going to be interesting to see in the long term, but it's probably been, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months of doing this, and I just like getting stuff done more than sleeping in, I guess.
Yeah, and I found that for me, I focus a lot more because I know, like to your point, the time is so precious that I don't want to piss it away playing video games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I got up early, and I only hobbied for like 30 minutes for about a week or so, and now I still get up. My wife gets up a full hour before I do, and she wakes me up when she gets up just because I do not sleep well, so I get up several times a night. Um, and so she'll get out of bed at like 6, and I'll lay around in and out of sleep for another 30 minutes, and then by 6:30 I'm awake, but I'm literally just laying there for like another 30 minutes, just not motivated to get
Yeah,
out of bed.
that sounds like most of my experience in most of my life.
Staring at the ceiling going, why God, why?
Mm.
Well, I will say last year we joined the Planet Fitness gym thing, and I was found the only time I could really work out is in the morning. So I was getting up at like 5:30 then and going working out, and I did it for a while. It actually what actually the fun, ironically what threw me off the schedule was Wapaka that year.
Nice.
Yeah, and so then when I came back, I'm like, no, I just can't get up at 5 every morning. I just can't do it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of Facebook traffic on my news feed for the upcoming Wapaka. Various people from like Minnesota and the northern tier locale have been asking questions of, do you think this will look good? Do you think this will look good? And, Wapaka is a special thing.
Cool. Yeah, it's approaching here. No Infinity this year, sadly. A lot of people have reached out saying how bummed they are about that, but we got Mission Critical to look forward to naturally. But I am gearing up for PACA here myself as the TO and working on terrain and stuff. So getting geared up for that.
Wow, what a natural segue, everybody. Did you see how flawless that was? That's what we had on pro right there.
Yep, pro
So,
level.
so Wapaka, let's start there, was that end of January tournament that was
Mhm.
started off on fantasy, right? It was pure fantasy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then when Age of Sigmar kicked in,
Nice.
you guys went to a multi-game event, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so that was the last 2 years, correct?
Last three, we did that 3 years.
Okay,
Two
3 years.
2 years at the current location.
Okay. So then at the end of last year's Wapaka, Rob and I had been to the last 2 years, playing Infinity on both of those. But at the end of the last year's Wapaka, you made an announcement that it was going to go back to just a GW Age of Sigmar exclusive, right?
That is correct.
All right. So you had an Infinity event at Wapaka, and you decided to split that off into what was known as Mission Critical. And you did the first Mission Critical last year, the first week of May. Rob and I were there. We actually did do a little cast on the Sunday night, just the two of us in our blats.
Yep,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Blatson.
Yep. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about what spawned Mission Critical and maybe a little recap of last year, maybe the hurdles, the learning curves, the things you may have got out of that led you into our big announcement of this year's Mission Critical.
Dun dun dun.
Da-da-da. Yeah, absolutely. So this might be a rehash for some, but so the Wapaka convention style worked pretty good, but ultimately our space was limited and it kind of consolidated to bigger and bigger tournaments and fewer game systems until it was just Games Workshop and then Infinity. And I noticed that there really wasn't a lot of crossover there. And then on the Infinity side, I like to run, a narrative, kind of a weird one-off little thing, but having it during the convention style, it's kind of cramped for space and cramped for time, and I couldn't really elaborate it the way that I wanted to. So to me, it was kind of a natural step to take it back and split out the Age of Sigmar back into its own thing, and then allow me to do Mission Critical on its own and kind of, really go to town there.
Yeah.
So
And by and by crossover you mean more of like the different people from the different groups hanging out and chatting, right?
yeah, correct. So maybe like the first year we did convention style, all kinds of people played all kinds of different games, and there was a lot of mixing between the people. But at the last one, there was maybe, I don't know, I would say like five, maybe less than that, people who played Infinity and then jumped over to a GW game and then jumped back or something like that. And then, as far as people hanging out and stuff like that, there wasn't. I mean, they weren't staying away from each other or avoiding each other, but they were just kind of sticking to their own game system folks as far as like the evening hangouts and stuff.
Oh, that's a lie, Rodge. I was all over the place.
Social fucking butterfly.
I mean, I magicked it up with Johnny late night. It was crazy.
Yeah, you were one of the five, my friend. Yeah. So last year's Mission Critical went pretty well. So there was some fun stuff there. Kind of learned some interesting things there. So kind of the overall plot there was teams of players exploring this kind of runaway giant starship that was infested with symbiote type creatures, and you end up hunting them down and trying to capture as many as you could, while also trying to attack and defend your own little base of operations. And then at the end, there was like a little kind of a hacking element to kind of tie it all together. So yeah, worked pretty well. I don't know. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. What I did like is the way you did the scenarios, right? So there were essentially three, right? There was a defense, an attack, and then find the symbiotes, right? And everybody played the defense and the attack, and then twice the symbiote one. So once you knew the missions, it wasn't like every round you had to like, okay, what's the mission this time? What's this? So I really thought that was pretty ingenious.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I kind of learned at the previous kind of Wapaka's, when everybody's supposed to be playing, but everybody's kind of like furiously scanning the scenario sheets. Gotta keep it simple.
Yeah, keeping it simple is always best for people like me that really want to play and don't play because life gets in the way. So anything that you can do to help us simple people is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, Rob is definitely a short bus rider.
Oh, I'm driving it. Somebody's got to get it there.
Oh yeah, and I can say that element of what you described there with the scenarios, that is carried forward to this upcoming year. So it will be kind of similar in that regards.
All right. So what was your takeaway as the event host from last year's?
Yeah, it was pretty much a wild ride. I didn't quite know what to expect. There were some things that I kind of wanted to work on behind the scenes that maybe folks didn't know about. Like I spent a lot of time on the actual symbiomates, for a narrative event. For me, there's kind of got to be like a physical element to it that kind of draws everybody together. So it ended up being the symbiomates and the kind of little scenery bits that I ended up building. But one thing was I actually wanted to add some terrain elements, but I never really finished them or got around to it. I wanted to add like little like egg catches on various tables, and then kind of ideally have them become more and more elaborate as folks work their way in. So I think that would have been pretty cool. So for this year, I'm kind of going back to that terrain element and kind of thinking about how I want to use the terrain to kind of tie everything together.
That sounds cool. Yeah. So last year you had what 100 and plus little symbiomates that you had converted and painted up and had stats for.
Yes.
Which actually was one of the questions on one of the scenario pieces for extra points is how many symbiomates were there.
Yeah.
1 million.
Yeah, seems like it. Although I kept finding rats, but that's all right. I'm not bitter.
It's infested. It's filthy.
Yes. Somebody really needs to get housekeeping and maintenance in there.
Mhm.
An exterminating service of something.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Trying to make those egg catches, nests, whatever you want to call them. I was actually using, so I did a bunch of test ones, but I actually used like old jelly beans that I had laying around, and I ended up gluing them to, little pieces of plastic card and stuff like that. But since it was actually the sugar in them, it kind of reacted and would like melt the jelly beans.
Oh yeah,
So
because PVA's got water in it. Yep.
yeah. So actually, I was able to get them attached via, just kind of dousing them in like polyurethane varnish to, just kind of stick them to the board.
Huh. I've seen some DIY, like dragon eggs, dragon nests that were made with pistachio shells.
Oh, interesting. Offhand, I don't know what those look like, but yeah, I knew I wanted little like ovoid egg shapes or something like that. I couldn't really think of anything.
Yeah.
Jelly beans they're like perfect size.
Yeah. Do you remember the GW plastic craters, terrain pits they did a couple of years back,
Yeah,
Rodge?
yeah.
So what the guy did is he took that, and then in the crater he had a bunch of pistachio cells. So basically, it's just like, and then since you're not familiar with it, it's basically like a sunflower seed shell, but more
Bigger.
about the size of a
I'm gonna
peanut, or a
Google it.
little peanut, or a little bigger. And he actually put it so they were cracked open, right? And so there basically was a bunch of open eggs in this crater. So it was, it's definitely, he painted them up. I'll see if I can find it, but he painted them up, and it's
Oh
creepy
yeah,
looking.
yeah. I can see that. Yeah, those probably would have worked pretty well
Yeah. So that, for the next time, you can put that down in your
next
folder.
time for my eggs.
Yeah, so that way, we're helping bros help bros.
That's what we do. Caring and sharing.
Yeah. All right. So you are doing Wapaka again this year, and then which is coming up here in just a couple weeks, right? Yeah.
Yep, just a few
Yep.
weeks here.
And then you're gonna do Mission Critical again in May. Now you've released, as you did last year, a trailer, which, by the way, bravo, man. Rob and I were talking about it before you got on. We're like the editing, the voiceover. I mean, you called in some favors, didn't you?
Yeah, I reached out, got some help here, trying to one up myself a little bit. Wasn't too hard to do really, but
well, and Ryan and I were talking that last year's Mission Critical trailers were more of a creepy vibe because it was a little girl talking about the blue men and crayons and drawing a picture that really led people's imagination just run wild. Whereas this one is much more of a, I don't know, political thriller, if you will.
yeah, I would say that. I just wanted to have something a little more straightforward, probably, and then something to get people pumped up. And then I also needed to showcase some of the terrain that I had been working on. That was really important. That we're going to Mars, and it's not like we're just playing on our Infinity terrain and saying that we're in Mars. Like we're going to Mars, baby.
Yeah, get your ass to Mars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I kept waiting for the inner slice of the Total Recall scenes in the trailer myself.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool. There was like scenes where Arnold Schwarzenegger is like watching like news or something. So like that would have been really awesome. Like I could have had like the Mission Critical stuff like on in the background.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Like that. Little bit out of my capabilities, but I learn a little bit every year.
And as I was watching it, I was watching the lower left-hand side where the updates from whatever server or security sentinel service that's going on. I kept expecting something to not necessarily jump out, but there to be a little Easter egg or something along those lines. So it had me enthralled.
All right, well keep your eyes peeled.
Ironically, Rob, yeah, Rob, you say that, but I was looking when what's the
Advocate?
The Advocate, when that voice was talking, I was looking in the numbers that was popping behind the screen. I kept trying to find words because I was like, Let's see
See,
what Rod tries to do here.
and when that was going on, I was looking for unit symbols. And I'll be honest with you, Rodge. I've probably watched that trailer like 3 times since it's dropped, and I keep looking for little Easter eggs. So you've got my palate wetted.
You guys are going deep. Going deep here.
I mean, that's the only way to go, Raj.
Yep. Go deep or
like
go
to
home.
Stick around the edge. Just kind of work the rim personally.
No. All right. So, as we have now said, the Mission Critical 2019 trailer has dropped. Do we expect additional trailers?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe not. We shall see. Probably what you can expect is into February and March, showcasing some more of the terrain as it's completed and showing the various battlegrounds that everyone's going to be fighting over to give folks a better idea of what they're up against.
Cool. And the area is going to be Mars, so it'll be Martian landscaped and however you see fit to do that. And you are doing this as a narrative, and last year you had teams of 4. So as I read, it's teams of 4 again this year.
Yeah, that is correct. So it is teams again, and then this time it's a little different. I guess kind of another learning experience perhaps. But so last year for the narrative, I let folks basically just form your own teams, and I kind of left it to the players to decide how these various factions got hooked up with each other. And I was fine with different factions on the same team, but from a narrative perspective, some people thought all the Yujing should be together, or typically when people do these, all the factions just team up together. And so I was kind of thinking about that, and like, yeah, there should be some kind of reason these factions are sticking together. But I think the human sphere is complicated. The factions are complicated. There's going to be innumerable sub factions in Pan-Oceania that are against each other and could be on the opposite side of the battlefield. So I tried to kind of think of some themes to various groups and why they would be there, and kind of shunt the various factions into them. And in my mind, like the resistance faction or the resistance team for Mission Critical this year, so it's made up of pretty simple Ariadna, US Ariadna, TAC, and Druze. And so the idea there is these are descendants of the original settlers on Mars, which are like Americans and Russians.
Okay.
And in the fluff for Infinity, which there's a lot of good stuff in the RPG. They say that Yujing kind of mostly took over Mars thereafter, as Pan-Oceania kind of went to Neoterra and other planets. So it's mostly a Yujing stronghold. But so in my vision here, these, you're playing US Ariadna or TAC, but I think you're actually playing these Americans or Russians. So you're not actually like Ariadnans. I mean, does that make sense? Like how you could just use the rules for Ariadnans and to represent these like resistance fighters?
Yeah, I see that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, to me, it's the total, American history aspect of sod busters versus land barons versus railroad interests.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and to get into the Rebels of Cydonia, which is like a Mars freedom faction. So, they're rebelling against Yujing, but the armies that is made up of are Yujing and JSA and stuff. So, these just represent, the freedom fighters. They're not necessarily state Yujing troops that you're playing as. So I think if people just keep that in mind, that's kind of how I did the pairings there. And I started at the top and kind of did the ones that made sense. And then once you get towards the bottom, like the mercenaries, wild cards, you just kind of shunted whatever's left over together.
Little hodgepodge of the leftovers.
Yeah.
Well, and Raj, as you're explaining it, the wild cards, Aleph Military Order, Steel Phalanx, and SSS, that makes sense because from my point of view, those would be people that would be trying to usurp the the authority of the Yujing on the Mars. So to me makes complete sense from a fluff standpoint.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you can really just kind of come up with any kind of reason to justify your stuff. So,
Yeah. I will say that when they put it out and I looked at those today, it had kind of thrown a monkey wrench into our KC
Yeah.
current plans, because we had some ideas, but these are not on the same in the same grouping, so we have to revisit our thoughts.
Yeah, well, that's also kind of intentional as well, because there was another thing that happened was all the newer players were like, we're all friends, like we're gonna stick together on our new guy team, and then all the veteran players are like, yeah, we're veterans, like let's win, and they all stuck together on their own teams. So this is going to kind of hopefully break up the teams a little bit and make them maybe a little more balanced across the board if you can't get all of your buddies necessarily in one, but hopefully it'll just mix up the skill levels and get you kind of interacting with some new people that maybe you haven't met before.
All right, so let's talk about that. So last year we entered as a 4-man team. So is this year, are we just entering as this is the faction I'm playing and you are aligning the teams? Is that how you're doing it?
Correct. So you're going to sign up on your own. I guess if you provided all the information for somebody else, you could sign up on their behalf. But if to go back to the resistance example, if you sign up as US Ariadna and Rob is playing TAC and he signs up, you're going to be on a team together because those two factions are aligned. Does that make sense? You kind of have to coordinate with your buddies.
Yep. Yeah, it does. So are you capping it? Because I was kind of reading through the rules before we got on here. Are you capping each of the different groups and the subgroups to like their own? I'm only going to have 4 people that fit in this category and 4 people that fit in this category.
Yeah, so we're going to cap it at 4-man teams, and then as there's overflow, like if there's so many Ariadnans have signed up, some of those will go down to be mercenaries, wild cards, or I could really put them into other factions on the insurgent side. So the way I have it laid out is just kind of ideally, like if we had a perfect mix, 1-for-1 of every Infinity faction represented, that's how it would end up. Like I realized that people don't play a perfect representation of the Infinity factions. So we're just going to do the best that we can here.
Okay, cool. And then also, if you look on your signing up, and you're doing the same sign up you've done before, it's just you're going to send money to Rodge via PayPal with your information. So there's not like a registration. That was a question I had gotten on the Mocan Infinity group, was like, there's no place to register. And I'm like, yeah, just read it and send Rodge some money.
And what's the cost on that, Rodge?
It's $55 if you just want to get in and play. I do have sort of a elite signups available. So as part of this, I'm making tables specifically for this. So I will be selling some of those tables. So essentially it's $290, which includes a mat and then a full set of terrain. So hopefully we can get some folks to take some of these tables home with them as well. So that's the other sign up option.
Ooh.
Yeah, so the normal was $50 and you got a ticket for a raffle, right? And the raffle was for one of the tables, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So ideally, this is kind of how I'm envisioning it. I'll have 6 tables that are essentially kind of extra scratch built. So these are going to be 3 mine tables and 3 Venus fill tables, which are going to have a really specific look. So one of those will just be given away to somebody who wins just the random whatever raffle entry for everybody who enters, and then the other ones will be available for purchase.
Yeah, and then the per purchase is if you sign up on the elite status, you are guaranteeing yourself one of the tables without having to do or win the raffle.
Correct.
And then you did have, if you got all 5 of the elite filled and you could get, 3 extra elites, then you were going to expand the number of players?
Yeah, so I just wanted to set up a pathway to, if it did fill up, to, I guess, what would have to happen for me to go forward with that. So we'd have to build some more tables, but I definitely would be down for that. We would just need to make sure that I get them out of the house here after the tournament. Can't have these tables piling up. But yeah, so hopefully we can get to 232, and then we'll take it as we go. I think I can't remember last, like 24 or 26 last year. So I think it's doable.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely signing up. So
yeah, I have a snag.
Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, you should totally
currently-
sign up.
Yeah, so there has been a monkey wrench thrown into my plans as of Christmas break, which really, yeah.
Ryan, say it ain't so, buddy.
We are in current negotiations, but there's a lot of things. The timing of that is killing me right now. So it's not out of the. It was removed from the table, but now it's back on the table, and we are figuring out logistics. Now, the only thing that could really throw the monkey wrench is if the company sends me offshore, which was a possibility, but I think it's gone more to the back burner. I would be out of the country about 6 to 8 weeks. But
wow.
I don't. Yeah, that's a long story. I could tell you sometime if you want to hear about it.
Oh God.
Rob gets to hear about it every day. But that seems like it has fallen in the priority list. So that's not as big of an issue. So that actually helps me now with my other plannings.
Okay, well, I hope it works out. When are you gonna know for sure? When is it gonna sort itself out? You know.
That's the best question, but the one I don't have the answer to.
And the one that everybody's asking.
At this point, I think I'm going to move ahead as if it's a green light, and just start getting everything in order, and then adjust from there.
Sounds like a plan to me. Lock it in, Ryan.
Oh yeah, I was all pumped, and it literally when we started looking at the calendar and when things were falling, I was like, wait a minute, that's May 5th weekend. And they're like, yeah, and I'm like, but I'm not here. And they were like, oh, well, and then I was like, it really killed my buzz for like 2 days of the holiday vacation. I was just like, I'm just really bummed, man. I'm like, that was like the one on the list. I was like, that was the one tournament on the list for the year that I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to that one. Been going to that one. And then it was just like, so.
And Ryan, you say tournament, but Joe, is it really a tournament or is it more a narrative event? So how is it going to be scored? How is it going to be played out, essentially?
Yes, that is a great question. So you'll notice in none of my verbiage anywhere does it actually mention tournament. I just keep saying narrative event. So it is actually scored similar to a tournament, but with the narrative hooks and the way that teams are split out and stuff like that. You just got to be ready to go with the flow. But you definitely want to win, and you win by playing through your missions, scoring points. So the way that it works is there's 4 distinct battlegrounds, and each battleground is going to have its own scenario linked to it. So Ryan kind of mentioned before the limited scenarios, and you kind of know what you're getting into. So it's going to be kind of like that. And so there's going to be a main objective. So like if we're doing ITS, which I always kind of build it around ITS and keep it similar to that because that's what everybody knows, then let's say 6 or 7 points of the scenario would come from that. And then each side, I'm calling them allegiance. So there's the Rodge Corp teams and then the insurgent teams. They're going to have their own classified objectives, which are going to revolve around these network nodes. And then, so that maybe be like 1 or 2 points. And then each team has its own classified objective. So the resistance is going to have something similar to telemetry. The corporate affiliates are going to have something similar to experimental drug. So that'll be kind of like the last point. And then, so that's how you'll score, and then you accumulate points as a team, and then the Rodge Corp or the insurgents are going to win, so you get some bonus points that way. one team on the side is going to do more classifieds than everybody else, and that's how they're kind of going to get a bonus. And then that's kind of how I see it playing out. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Do you have anything special planned for like prizes? Was it last year? I think you did mugs and glasses. Was that last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there probably will be mugs and or glasses, and it's probably going to be for everybody this year. One comment I got, people like the mug, so there will be something. I haven't figured that out. That usually when you go to a tournament or run a tournament, you wanted to run the tournament that you would go to. So I kind of sink all my efforts into the gameplay and the theme and those elements. And then there are prizes as kind of an afterthought for me. So that's probably something I won't really put together until April, I would say.
Okay, I was having a conversation with Rob today, and I may talk to you later about donating something for you to give away. So we'll talk about that off there. So you can be a
Okay.
surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of maybe an interesting discussion too. If so, I've done this big rollout of the trailer and the website and stuff. Do you think having, just in a general discussion, pictures of some fancy prizes, army boxes, or something like that? Do you think that would help signups at all? What's your opinion?
I'm of two thoughts here. One, right? So yes, possibly, but also I think this event, particularly based on my 2 years of Wapaka and last year's Mission Critical, is really more about the entire weekend of people hanging out and palling around and being silly and playing games. Although as the focus, it's almost like it's just that's the common denominator, but the weekend of people
Mm-hmm.
hanging out. So I don't necessarily know, like, oh well, I've got to go because I'm going to win this, full table of drain. I don't know if that's as big of a draw or same type of draw for the crowd that you typically pull for this type of event.
Yeah, and from my point of view, I'm going to the event because the event is outstanding. It doesn't necessarily matter to me if I win or lose or not win something that is a prize support that is going to, basically come home with me at like an army box and go underneath my paint table until I get around to painting it. Whereas the mug that is, sitting on my shelf right now from the last PACA, that means more to me than the army box that's sitting underneath my paint desk, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. And I kind of, I think I'm aligned with both of you guys. And, it's about the event, the experience. Obviously, having some sweet prizes to cap it out would be nice, but not the main focus. But, I'm certainly going to do my best to get some kind of sweet prizes there.
Yeah, and if Ryan pulls this thing off that he was talking about on the way back from getting FA today, that's going to be an amazing thing. So, Ryan, let me know if you need help on that.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out and we'll chat with Rodge, but to see if he wants to do that. But
yeah, and for those of you that weren't in the car coming back from lunch today, it is pretty badass. I'll just say it that way.
All right.
I'm enticed.
Yeah, that's what we do. We'll hook you in, Rodge. That's our little nugget to hold you out there. Like, hey, look over here.
Now throw a damn Easter egg in that trailer.
Yeah. So, Rodge, have you gotten to play much in developing this stuff? Or are you literally just most of your focus been on Wapaka, Mission Critical? So are you getting games in so that you know how the current shape of the ITS is going? Does that influence you when doing this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So, putting the factions together, I kind of had that in mind. It didn't actually change anything because I still built the teams together based off what I thought made sense thematically and narratively. But looking at where some of the newer factions ended up, I'm like, I think that'll be a popular team. But yeah, I do get gaming in, and we're developing a group of local guys here, and we're definitely going to get some games in on these tables that I'm putting together here.
Are you gonna drag Johnny out of his house and make him play some Infinity?
I don't know. That's pretty tough call there, Ryan. I'm not sure if I'm up to the task. I'll certainly try.
By the way, I forgot to mention earlier, I did get the model. I had sent you guys pictures. So you guys have a raffle for your podcast on your Patreon prizes, and it's every quarter somebody wins a painted
Hmm.
model, and I won the quarter before this last one, and Johnny painted the model for me, the delegate chick from the GSA, and he sent that to me, and that thing is sweet. That is really
Yeah, it
pretty.
looked really cool. Yeah, well, he did a good job there. He definitely put the time in.
Yeah, I did have one person reach out to me and say that he was pretty sure that Johnny did not paint it, simply because there wasn't enough dongs on it. And that's a straight quote. So I laughed. I was like, I'm definitely telling you guys that came across because that was kind of
Interesting.
funny.
I don't know. Did you kind of flip under that skirt there? It might be an Easter egg there.
Although I didn't, but I would not put it past Johnny to get a little green stuff going there.
Take a look. There might be some battle fat under there.
I have it right here. Don't think I won't. All right, Rodge. So what are your quick sell points for Mission Critical 2019?
Oh, cool. Yeah, well, I think it's definitely going to be a one of a kind event just based off the thematic terrain elements that I'm putting together. So if you want to play on some interesting kind of classic sci-fi Mars looking tables, I mean, you're not going to be able to do that anywhere else. So that's kind of my main hook here and what I'm putting my emphasis on here. Other than that, it's just a really fun time. There's always surprises throughout the event that keep people on their toes. It's a kind of a boozier type affair compared to some other Infinity events that I've gone to. A lot of camaraderie.
Wait, it's a boozier type? You mean you can drink at this event?
I'm in. I already sent my money.
Did you think Blatz was a soda? I mean, it's just slightly more alcoholic.
It is a fine basement floor beer, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it gets you drunk like a 12-pack of Dr. Pepper, basically.
Yeah, we have a new group, a guy playing who works with Rob and I, who we were talking to, and we were discussing trying to get him to come with us. And Rob and I may have told him, we're like, hey, look, we get there, we start drinking, and we don't stop until it's time for us to leave. So it's like you're going to see us definitely outside of this is the work attitude we have into a much different element of how we behave as humans.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be quite interesting for him if he shows up. But it's definitely noob friendly. We've got another large group of newbies have already signed up here in the first hour. So you either be a good company, or if you're a veteran, there's going to be some good hunting going on here.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, the new versus veterans. So in a normal ITS, right, there's definitely a learning curve, definitely kind of a division of how that goes. We had a little bit of that last year, right? You already kind of spoke to that a little bit. So this year, you're trying to compensate for that by mixing the teams up. But so if you were a newer player, would you say that this is an event that is still friendly, still open to them, that they would still have just as much chance of anybody else for succeeding?
Yeah, I would say so. One thing is there's a sort of a different mentality, maybe slightly. This is outside the ITS, so it doesn't count for rankings. It's not going to get you into interplanetary or anything like that. So if there were some folks like that out there, perhaps they're probably not going to be coming to Mission Critical. But and yeah, maybe some of those people are, just to have fun. But it's more centered around fun and kind of putting together a fun list, showing up, and kind of doing your best. And then kind of you do raise some points about newbies and the narrative and how do you do it Swiss rankings and kind of track everything hardcore. So I was actually talking with Grant Fetter about this because he's run several narratives. And so I'm going to be using his approach for this year where basically the newbie players are going to be able to choose their matchups going into most of the rounds. There's going to be some caveats there, but and he said that just giving them some agency like that really kind of help balance things out. So that will be an element this year for us, and we'll see how that works.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I could definitely see that as being a bonus. Now, last year you did 5 games, 3 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, but there was a mandatory Saturday event. Is your setup similar to that?
Yeah, it is pretty similar. I would say identical. So we're going to have 3 games Saturday, 2 on Sunday, get you guys out of there. But on Saturday, there is another mandatory event. And I do have the idea for what it will be in my mind already. But I like to play things close to the chest not because I don't want to get stuff out there, but it's because I usually come up with even better idea, as I go along here. So I don't want to lock myself into anything, but it should be pretty cool, and it will work into some of the terrain elements as well. So it should be cool.
Cool. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. I thought the last year's Saturday event was really just a kind of a good way to kind of stand around and just everybody be yelling and screaming and really kind of had that
Yeah.
camaraderie.
Yeah, and blow off a little bit of steam so that it's not a serious event. Like Rodge was talking about with it being an ITS and hurting your rankings and things like that. The quote unquote mandatory Saturday night event, you want to attend. It's not that it's just mandatory. It's you want to do this.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah. Glad you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah. So what else do you have any other little tidbits you can up on the group now?
I don't have any tidbits, but you guys could actually help me out right here because I have a follow-up to the trailer that I thought we could play at the end of this episode of Personal Flash Paper. Are you guys down for that?
I'm down with that.
Oh, heck yeah. We're all over this.
Okay, cool. Well, I need you to you're going to be part of the audio exhibition here. So you guys are going to play characters, and you're going to be Rodge Corp kind of technicians. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Cool. I do have a question. So last year, Bear had created a Rodge Corp building. Is there going to be another Rodge Corp piece of terrain outside of the other stuff you're doing that everyone's going to get in a swag bag type of thing?
Yeah, everybody will be getting some Rodge Corp gear of some kind, I will say, in their little goodie patch. It won't be a full-on MDF table or maybe anything that large. It might be a little wall section or some Rodge Corp posters or logos or something like that. So
that's badass.
Yep, that would be pretty cool.
Cool.
I enjoy adding some of those things to my table. I have a shark mounted laser buildings table that has a bunch of billboards, and I'm looking to replace them. Our local store has said he wants to give me some files so I can actually make billboards for the store on there. And I actually was going to talk to you about some of the wanted posters you had for the captain and see if I could get that file and put some of that on there.
I can help you out there, bro.
Just to kind of personalize the table a little bit more. So
yeah, I think you got the right idea there.
Cool. So let's see, we've been on for probably about an hour now. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Anything you're excited about, Rodge?
No, I will say putting together the trailer and the last few scenery elements here, I gotta say I'm pretty darn giddy about the event at the moment, and I appreciate you guys letting me come on here right when the fire is hot. So hopefully this will come out pretty soon after the trailer hits here, so people can listen to this episode and get all the additional details and clarifications and such. So much appreciated, guys.
Yeah, I'll be dropping this as soon as I possibly can.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Nice.
Yeah. I do want to kind of reiterate for the listeners, Rob and I went last year. We play in ITS events too, but I do think a lot of our motivation has been more of the hobby game, relaxing. So a narrative event, and I know we've talked about this on the cast before. So a narrative event for us is really more just about playing games, getting a weekend, having a good time, and it's not so cutthroat. And I think based off of Wapaka's past and Mission Critical last year, that this event at Mission Critical really is the epicenter of what we mean when we say that it's a week-long event. It's not a tournament, it is an event, but there are scoring, people do win, but it's really just about people with a like-mind interest in a game just hanging out and really being kids, right? Being adult kids for a weekend.
And blowing off steam. I mean, let's face facts. We're, quasi adults. We all have, maintain our bills, our lifestyles, our wives, whatever. And this is an event where you can just relax, be chill. It's all good. You're having fun. You're pushing little toy soldiers around. You're rolling dice, and you're playing make believe. What better way to spend a weekend?
Awesome! Wow, thank you guys. Very, very kind words, and yeah, that's kind of the response that I hope for my efforts in putting these together. So, wow,
well deserved. Well deserved. I mean, when the wife laid down the law that I could not go to 5 traveling tournaments this year, and basically reduce it from 5 to 3. Mission Critical was the first one that made the list. So
awesome.
Yep. I mean, like I said, it was the only one that I planned on definitely going to, and then of course, life was like, fuck you.
Coming for you.
Yeah. So, but we're not giving up hope. We're still planning on it.
Awesome. Yeah. I hope it works out for you.
Yeah. Now I just got to figure out what to play.
Yeah. I'll be curious if anybody jumps to a new faction so they can play with some buds, or maybe they just really like that classified.
Well, to tell you, we were all jumping to new factions for this, and then you threw a monkey wrench into that plan, so we have to revisit that discussion.
Yep, that's going to be a very interesting discussion now.
All right, boys, get on it. She's filling up.
Well, let's hope it does. I mean, that's awesome for you. Fill it up.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Well, Rodge, I really want to thank you not only for coming on here and talking about it, but for all the work you do in this event. Well, not only this, but also Wapaka. You put a lot of work as TO into these events twice a year. Huge shout out to you. Thanks to your wife and child for letting you do that also.
Yeah. Stretching to her limits right now. I'm like, hey, why don't you guys go out and go out to eat, treat yourselves? And she's like, yeah, we could all go to Sam's Club afterwards. I'm like, oh no, I just meant you two.
No, you
hang
guys.
out in the house, I'm not up to anything. Well, maybe I'll work on my trailer that I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I did actually get our hot tub working, and the new cover came today, so I've got some points going.
Yeah, it's all about those micro deposits, boys.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. All right. So, again, just really appreciate you coming on. I mean, it's really exciting. It's really going to be a really cool event. Anybody listening, if you have the inclination to come to Mission Critical, do it. Danger Rose traveled from Panama simply because he heard us talking about it. He's also told his wife that he has to go because we've called him out on it multiple times. So he has to come again. So hopefully he'll be there.
Yeah.
He signed up already, so.
Nice.
He's coming.
Cool. Well, if anybody wants to get a hold of us, personal flash paper on the Facebook group is the best way to get involved in our community. If anybody wants to reach out to you, Rodge, for questions, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I did create a new website for this year's event. It's missioncriticalinfinity.com. Just the old Facebook page wasn't quite going to cut the mustard for everything we needed to do this year. So you can find the tournament info and everything on there. Otherwise, my email is wiscohorndog@gmail.com, and I respond to that. And you can ask me whatever you want.
Yeah, and also I will also throw the Mission Critical website into the show notes for this when I load it up.
Okay, yeah, much appreciated.
Cool. Well, I think that should wrap us up for this. I do appreciate you coming on, Rodge. I hope everybody has a good time and gets signed up right away. Sounds like it's already starting to get some people in there. So hopefully it'll fill up and you'll be able to expand it. And the next thing you know, you'll take over the world.
Mission critical for real.
For reals.
Kind of a scary thought. Let's hope not.
Yeah, who knows? Corvus Belli will have to send a representative over here because it's so popular.
It'd
The whole big thing.
Bring Coney to the States.
be interesting. Yeah, I've been in contact with him.
Yeah, you had to get a bunch of symbiote mates last year. You had to chat with him.
Yeah, I might have a request in for this year. We'll see.
Nice.
Mom's the word.
Ooh, special. All right, everybody, have a good night.
All right, get your ass to Mars.
Get your ass to Maz.
Director, we've got the local network back up.
It looks like it will take another 36 to 48 hours. However, to reestablish communications outside the crater.
No matter. This will be over before then. Contact Administrator Suda. Tell him to accelerate testing on the Rodge 209. I want to see what it can do.